Hello everyone, thanks very much for tuning in to our tasting this evening from Campbeltown. What a great way to spend a Friday to begin with. You've got myself, David Allen, and my esteemed colleague Andrew Wallace here, who some of you might have got familiar with, some of you might have got over familiar with over the last week, judging by some of the feedback we've been getting on his society tour. This is this is a new thing for us. This is us going through our sort of special releases. Most of you will be aware that we do a bunch of special releases every quarter, and we are aware that there's maybe not quite enough of these releases to go around the world for everybody to get their hands on a bottle to try. So we thought it'd be a nice idea to break some of the bottles down into some tasting packs and let you guys try those, and without bankrupting yourself or trying to get hold of a Springbank 21 and a Longbow 21. So that's the idea behind this. Please give us your feedback. Please let us know if you're watching. Please send us in questions. And we'll go through the whiskies and have a bit of a chat about what we've been up to. So it's myself and Andrew, both from the sales team. We've got Nathan lurking behind the camera there, infamous for his foul-mouthed outburst during a canhead tasting. Wasn't supposed to bring that up, was I, Nathan?
Oh dear.
It's not going to happen again, Nathan, is it? No.
Depends how you behave.
That's it. Good. So, this is a new thing for us. Some of you were able to, most of you who are probably watching are society members who managed to get some packs that way. There was some packs sold through our distillery shop, the Cadenheads shop in Edinburgh, London, the online shop. And then even some of you might be aware we're trialling our European hub where we've got stock based in Germany to send out if you live in not all the European countries unfortunately, but some of the European countries we can send out directly from Germany to cut down the shipping cost. And try and be a bit more accessible to everyone, because previously we've not been, since Brexit, been unable to send, say, directly to France, but having the use of this hub in Germany allows us to do that. But bear in mind we still have to get the packs from Campbeltown to Germany, so it's not doesn't massively reduce shipping costs. It makes it more accessible. But I think whereas before, if we were sending something to Germany like this, it would cost in excess of £33. Plus you'd be paying your duties and VAT. We're now just a single transaction cost of £20. So all in all, better value, and we will always keep looking at that and refining it where possible.
100%. And just to touch on that, there was basically, I heard a story it was last April, and we released the Society Springbank 5-year-old, and that's a £50 UK retail price, including the VAT. But after all some customers in Europe, after all the shipping and all the extra taxes and stuff like that, I heard stories of people paying £100 for that bottle, £125 for a Springbank 5-year-old. So I think with this new third-party distribution hub that's based in Berlin, the prices are going down for shipping anyway. So it's not perfect, but it's something for you guys.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress, and it's hopefully getting more of the whiskey into the hands of the drinkers rather than the flippers. Anyway, shall we start off with a first dram, which is our trusty Campbeltown Loch, our blended malt. So we reincarnated, I guess, Campbeltown Loch early 2022. Some of you may remember we had a Campbeltown Loch as a blend with grains, etc. in it, but this is purely a blended malt made up solely with the 5 single malts from Campbeltown. So it's got all our own stuff: Springbank, Hazelburn, Longrow, Kilkerran and Glen Scotia. So it's a true representation of Campbeltown, and does a good job of representing the Campbeltown style.
100%.
I'm sure some of you will be effing and blinding, depending where you are in the world, that we currently are only able to distribute this within the UK, Europe and the US. We will always try and expand that as we go, but we didn't want to drip feed a little bit into one market and another market. We want this to be accessible in those markets. And the aim of the game is to scale that up, hopefully, and get it everywhere. But hopefully everybody who's got a pack is enjoying that just now.
I think the whole sort of thought process about reintroducing Campbeltown Loch 2021 was, we're hearing a lot of feedback about people not having as much access to Springbank 10 or 15 or some of our core bottles that they used to get loads and loads of. You could walk into the distillery shop back in 2018 and buy as many bottles as you wanted. But nowadays it's getting a bit harder, and if you want to go into at least a specialist whiskey retail shop, we want you to see at least something from our distillery, and hopefully Campbeltown fulfills that sort of gap. And I was actually speaking to Finlay about basically the recipes for the different batches, because we've done different batches in 2021, 2022, 2023. So the 2021 batch was actually mostly Glen Scotia inside there. It was a lot lighter as well. I don't know what percentage that was of the overall the vatting, but you've probably seen quite a lot of like blended Campbeltown malts coming onto the market. So that was a lot of Glen Scotia in those, and we did something similar and then threw our casks, our single malts into the vatting as well. But with the darker two batches from 2022 and 2023, they've been fully matured Oloroso sherry and fully matured bourbon barrels. It's quite darker, the more recent batches of Campbeltown Loch. So I'd assume a lot higher percentage of Oloroso sherry going on inside. But Finlay actually said as well, the casks are all about 5 to 6 years old. And the darker batches from 2022 and 2023 have actually been 60% unpeated Kilkerran, and then a few casks of all of the other ones as well. So pretty cool. There's no finishing going on in here, fully matured and all that together. So and absolutely fantastic dram. As David said at the start, just essentially a Campbeltown whiskey, Campbeltown style, sea salty, briny, a medium amount of peat smoke. For the amount of
unpeated Kilkerran in there, and obviously Hazelburn and things like the sort of the Springbank and the Long Nose doing there's definitely that influence in there.
Doing wonders anyway.
And it's certainly a good caricature of a Campbeltown whiskey, which is exactly what we want it to do.
It's got it on the label, so it needs to do it.
Exactly. Now, there's some comments here saying you were spotted singing Campbeltown Loch in Union Street in Aberdeen during the week.
Who's got that? That's total lies, yeah. It wasn't on the street, it was in a above the malt room bar in Inverness last night. It was a good wee night.
So you have been on your travels this week, Andrew, as part of our Society on Tour, which has been pretty cool. So you've had how many? Five tastings? More? No. 6, 7? Where are we?
7 tastings. 5 different cities so far.
And that's got all a bit too much for you, so you're going on holiday next week, aren't you?
Going down to London. I basically got back to Campbeltown from Inverness at 5 o'clock tonight. Right. So that was 5 hours on the road tonight.
Just a couple of hours behind schedule for that 3 o'clock meeting we had to go through this tasting.
Yeah, it's a little bit worse for wear this morning, to be honest. But and then I had to make the online tasting tonight. Had to have some more drams as well. Yeah, it's a really hard job, very hard job. And then me and my girlfriend are going down to London tomorrow at 10 a.m. 6 o'clock in the morning. 10-hour drive. I don't know what's happening, but it's all good fun, and we're young, so.
Well, I'm sure by the end of week 2 of Society 2, you might feel a bit aged.
I've never been down to London any time in my life, and I'm going down tomorrow for an entire week, and I'm doing Society Tastings, the sort of English half of the Springbank Society Tour the following week, and we'll make another appearance in London as well. So
it's good. London's seen a lot of us because Melanie's been down in London this week, and just yesterday was in the Cadenhead shop doing a in-store pouring. So If anybody was at any of Melanie's tastings, say hello as well.
Big time.
So yeah, we've been pretty active in the UK, and you've got dreams and aspirations of taking the society on a European tour.
Yep.
I know Fiona is just back from Norway. She did a society tasting, I think it was in Oslo. And I think she's off to Japan next week with Jenna from Cadenheads. And there's a society tasting planned there. So yeah, we really are sort of on a world tour now.
Can we get an American society tasting tour going, or a New Zealand/Australia one going as well?
Absolutely, if the demand is there. If the demand is there.
I'm trying to wrangle it, guys. Just give me time.
Yeah. Good. So let us know your thoughts about Campbeltown. I think there's been a few comments coming in here on. I'm only seeing things on Facebook. I don't know if we're supposed to see YouTube comments up here as well, Nathan, but oh wait, is that because I've got this in private chat?
Yes.
There you go.
Now we can see all the comments.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness sake. But
Well, Ruth Ashton Ward, I'll come along to the Japan one. Where is it?
Tokyo.
Tokyo?
Yeah, somewhere in Tokyo.
But I think Tokyo is a city of 80 million people, so you might need a bit more detail on that.
Yeah. Good time. And I don't know how I was actually greenlit to do this the society tasting tour, and I'm just very, very happy. And as David said, I was the greenlit for the sort of Scottish one and the English one so far, but the European one as well. And I've not actually planned out anything, but I really would like to do a European tour, or at least the German half, or the German part in June time, because that's when Scotland's playing in the Euros. So
well timed, yeah.
So
and you can take your bagpipes with you, because you're allowed to take your bagpipes into the stadiums now, apparently.
Really?
This was a point of contention, yeah.
Oh wow, cool. Absolutely love it.
I'm not saying that you're doing a society tasting in the stadium. I mean, go and watch Scotland, of course.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
50,000 attendees for a Springbank society tasting, that'd be pretty good, eh?
No, one day. I don't know if there's enough stock in our warehouses to quite fulfil that one.
Yeah. Oh, but with the Campbeltown Loch as well, as we're talking about, sea salty, briny, a little bit of peat smoke, but the overall sort of sweetness in the palate is obviously coming from a lot of the sherry casks involved. Bit of salted caramel, sort of. I get cherries, stewed fruits, red berries, all of these things. It's really syrupy and thick. I do like this whiskey, and it's £40. Like, that just says it all to me.
That's it. It's a very good quality whiskey. It's accessible within the markets that we have it in. You should be able to finish a bottle without the fear of not knowing where your next bottle is going to come from. You'll go back into the retailer and you should have it on the shop. So, and then the aim of the game is to expand that out into other markets when time and stocks allow.
Yeah. On this sort of tour, the Society Tasting Tour so far, we've been doing a vote at the end of the night. So there's been actually 7 whiskies. There's been 6 on like the formal part and the tasting mats, and then like an arrival dram as well of Campbeltown Loch. So if people have come up 15 minutes early or something like that, at least they're not standing around empty-handed. And we give them a dram of Campbeltown Loch, loosens them up as well, so it gets them chatting in the tasting. But we do a vote at the end of the tasting just to see what people's thoughts are on the drams. And this is a tasting that includes the new local barley, new Springbank 12 cask strength. These are going to be released in February and May and all of these different things. Very, very excellent drams. But Campbeltown Loch has been getting a few votes out of the entire tasting on the majority of the nights that have been doing it, out of the 7 nights so far. So very good feedback, I would say.
Yeah, good. I just see a comment there from Mark T. Is it correct that the most recent Campbeltown Loch doesn't have any Glen Scotia? I know it does have a bit of Glen Scotia in it, but it's kind of more and more our sort of own Janie Mitchell whiskies. Just now, Bob Miller, I love the personalised bottles here. Solved some Xmas prezzies for me. Yeah, if you were local to Campbeltown, we were able to do a personalised label service with Campbeltown Loch, so you could have a bottle with a bespoke label for your friends, partners, loved ones, which is always good.
Some Christmas present.
Alec Briggs, Dumfries rules okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. Going down to see the guys from TB Watson as well. So, and everyone else in Dumfries. I think we're nearly sold out for that one, but we'll probably have like 20 tickets still on sale if anyone wants to come to the Dumfries tasting. I think it's a 60-person tasting, and we've got 40 sold so far. So, yeah, the lineup looks pretty good. We're getting a lot of good feedback. Doing new releases as well, as I said. The new local barley's on there. The Springbank 12-year-old, Kilkerran 8-year-old sherry, and the new Long Row Red, which is pretty cool. But we should probably speak about this tasting that we're doing tonight.
Yeah, before you open the floodgates and have thousands of people banging on the door of TB Watson looking for a ticket to your taste.
Release dates TBC. That's as much as you're going to get out of us, to be honest. But it's probably time to move on to the second dram. You've probably finished it. So the second whiskey of the night here is your Springbank 18. This one's been bottled at 46%. The 2023 release. I think this was released back in August.
Correct.
So this and the 21-year-old are back in August. And the cask makeup, I'm seeing it right here, 65% sherry, 20% bourbon, and 15% rum. And with the Springbank 18, when I first tasted it, I didn't think there was an awful lot of peat smoke in here. It's maybe getting a bit hidden by the sherry cask and the rum cask, maybe. But you're getting a lot more of the sort of meatiness on the palate. It's very thick, oily. Yeah, I would say those sort of more typical Campbeltown styles of whiskey, that more robust, muscular type of spirit. But the sweetness in here, get an awful lot of cola syrup, dates, raisins, figs, blueberries, all of these sort of notes.
I'm just looking at the taste notes we've got with the packs, and yeah, there's a lot of the demerara sugar, the dates coming through. But also for me, there's everybody in our sales team will laugh, but I always get this kind of Dunnage warehouse note, or sort of bung cloth, or sort of almost that sort of mustiness, but a good mustiness with our older whiskies, and that's coming through for me. But I can see it's not in our kind of taste notes we have down here, so maybe it's just my peculiar palate. Spent too many hours in the warehouse with musty bits of bung cloth.
Well, that's the thing, like, we've got 8 warehouses currently on site. 5 of them are Dunnage style. So what does that mean? That is the traditional way that people would mature casks of whiskey, dating back to the 1800s. Earth floors, they're only racked 3 high, the casks. So, and we lose about, supposedly we lose around 2% of the volume inside a cask every single year. So as that drops down, as you're losing the liquid inside there, what's being replaced? The air. And what's in the air? We're like a mile away from the Atlantic Ocean over there. We've got the earthy floors that the casks are sitting on. All of these, when you walk into one of our warehouses at Springbank, it's like, you're just getting this waft of musty dirtiness. It's really nice. It's excellent.
Yeah, maybe when you sort of say that, maybe it's not for everyone, but certainly it's very much part of our style, and it goes to show why we think it's very important that all our whiskey that's produced here in Springbank is also matured here in Springbank. So as you say, we've got the elements here where on the west coast of Scotland we get battered by these Atlantic weather storms, and the casks sit in these damp, drafty Dunnage warehouses, and undoubtedly they're taking on part of the climate.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's quite, as you say about the cask makeup, there's sort of sherry, bourbon, and rum casks in here, which is always good, and it's something we struggle to maintain a consistency with maturation for older whiskies. We don't have a massive pool of casks to say this is the recipe, it's going to be this recipe every year. I think last year it was 65 bourbon and 35 sherry was the makeup. And people might have thought that was the best Springbank 18 they've ever had. I wish you guys could do that every year. And then next year we've got some rum casks in there. But we always have to work with what we the pool of casks that we have, and put the best sort of combination together to produce the best whiskey, so we don't sort of constrain ourselves trying to adhere to a set recipe, because that might not be the best version of that whiskey. So it's always interesting putting these expressions together. We've always sort of found that maybe we don't have a massive pool of casks to choose from. We'll put something together and we think, yeah, that's good, and then Finlay goes and vats it, and then we try the vatting sample and it's even better than we thought, and then next time we try it for taste notes after it's been bottled, I always think it's even better again. And then now it's in the glass, that was bottled back in August, and I don't think I've had much Springbank 18 since then, but it's even better than I remember it from August. So
yeah,
whatever that process is, it seems to work.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Do you think it's quite funny, like people talk about batch variation, and I always say to them, I'm saying this a lot on the Society Tasting Tour, it's basically, if you want your Springbank, your Hazelburn, your Long Row, or your Kilkerran to taste the same batch after batch after batch after batch, if you're expecting that, don't even think that's going to happen, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, with the core bottlings that we produce like our 10-year-old or 15-year-old Springbank, Long Row peated, Kilkerran 12, Hazelburn 10. These are what we call the core bottlings, and they're bottled every 3 months, so every quarter, and they've got set recipes. Basically, I think the Springbank 10 is 60% bourbon, 40% sherry. 15-year-old Springbank is 100% Oloroso sherry, but those recipes aren't going to be changed for the near future anyway. I've not got plans to do that. But with the things that we only produce once per year, a lot of these are called like limited releases. 5 of the whiskies that you're trying tonight are these yearly bottlings, these limited releases. The recipe changes every single year, as David says, and if you want standardization, just do not buy from Springbank, basically. So
it's just you putting your sales prevention hat on. Just literally saying our system, do not buy from Springbank.
But yeah,
very true. Yeah,
P45 coming in the door next month.
No, quite right. Yeah, we like to think of ourselves as a very kind of transparent company. So yeah, we tell you everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's always great quality, as long as it hits that benchmark of quality. That's
the important thing, and that maybe sort of leads us into our next whiskey, the Springbank Palo Cortado, which is part of our ongoing sherry series. We've taken a different sherry type and matured Springbank in it, and from the outset we thought it'd be quite good to have it all bottled as 10 years old. The lighter the sherry influence, the longer it spends in that sherry cask versus the bourbon cask. So the first bottling period was the Springbank PX, 7 years in bourbon, 3 years in the PX. This year it was the Springbank Palo Cortado, so it was 6 years in bourbon and 4 years in the Palo Cortado. And then next year, Amontillado, Fino, Manzanilla, each spending sort of more time in the sherry cask and the bourbon cask as we go on. All bottled at 10 years old and 55% ABV for that sort of uniformity, really for comparison purposes. However...
Can I stop you? You've missed a whiskey.
Which one? Oh, the 21-year-old.
It sounded really good, the story that we're going with, but we're a bit out of order.
Yeah, you're right. Not the 21 first. All right, well, we'll get back to that story after we look at the 21-year-old then. I don't get out much.
I'll speak about the Palo Cortado next, maybe.
Well, we don't get out much, and when I do, 2 drams, and I'm skipping ahead of myself.
Fleeing already.
But you talk about the 21-year-old then.
That sounds good. With the Springbank 21-year-old this year, bottled at 46%, as I said. So the cask makeup this year, 45% bourbon cask, 20% sherry, 20% rum, 15% port. There's an awful lot going on. But as David kind of alluded to earlier on, we do not have an awful lot of stock sitting in the warehouses, and it's essentially a case of Finlay, David, Ranald looking at the DMS, our sort of spreadsheet, our management system, seeing what's available, and then coming up with a recipe that merges together and works. And I feel this is absolutely stunning. It is, see, once Springbank or any of our whiskies hit that 20-year-old mark, it just becomes tropical fruits. It is just, and you feel it right. The 30-year-old is like that one's like amplified.
Yeah, the sort of, for me, the old classic Springbank note is those tropical fruits certainly come through.
Yeah.
With a bit of that bung cloth, which I understand maybe picked up, if anybody's sort of having this translated as bum cloth, which would be a whole different tasty note.
But yeah, you're getting an awful lot of the sort of the pineapples, guavas, like mangoes in here as well, combined with the sort of, there's not an awful lot of peat smoke, for me anyway. It's very, very subtle, but it's just a rich style of whiskey. It's very thick, and I get an awful lot of fudge off of this, frankly.
I get a lot of the tropical notes, and then a sort of mineral, sort of flinty note in there, which is sort of really pleasant for me as well. It's quite a refreshing whiskey. And as you say, there's not much, for me anyway, of the peat influence at all. It's very, very subtle, almost inaudible in there. It'll be adding something to the whiskey. It's part of the DNA, the background, but it's certainly not a dominant note for me.
Yeah. Something that I have been discussing with on the society tour is basically the sort of filling recipes, or what we're doing at the Springbank Distillery and Glengale right now. Before 2016, we were making, in a good year, we were making 100,000 litres at Springbank and 50,000 litres at Glengale. But once Finlay Ross came in and made a few things a bit more efficiency going on, Springbank we upped things to 260,000 litres consistently, and then at Glengale there's been 90 to 92,000 every single year.
Yeah, I think important to say when you talk about making things a bit more efficiency, we employed more folk.
That's true, yeah.
Which meant that we could basically have our maltings and mashing production going on at the same time, whereas historically we always had the sort of same group of guys would do sort of 2 or 3 months malting, fill all the malt bins, and then go and mash and distill that. And, following the Springbank way of doing things, where we like to create employment for the community, we thought, well, we need more whiskey. Let's make more. How do we do that? Just employ more folk.
No robots or automation.
No robots. They apparently just go for the dinner tickets. Although, having said that, I've not seen, having attended most of the dinners over the last few years, I've not seen any robots in there. It's always generally...
Sometimes you can't tell they're robots.
Well, especially at the end of the night, yeah. But, just actually jumping about here, we've got our Malts Festival coming up. The dinner tickets went on sale. There's not many available for sale, and as you can imagine, a huge amount of demand for them. So yeah, unfortunately, not everybody can get a ticket. Maybe we'll look at doing a ballot system or something next year. I know that was maybe discussed in the office earlier, but
I think that's a good idea. Good suggestion anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and then their tickets for events go on sale next week. As well, so hopefully people are successful getting tickets to some of the events. And I'm pretty sure one of the biggest challenges for people now is to get accommodation in Campbelltown. So I don't know, maybe hotels and B&Bs are going to start having to do ballots.
Yeah.
That's the next thing. But that's the Malts Festival. We're really, really looking forward to that. Some of you have been before will see a difference on the Friday in particular, where we're really focusing on Kilkerran. It's Kilkerran's 20th anniversary this year, so all the focus and attention will be there. And where we normally share a day with Canheads are going to have sort of events throughout the whole week as well. So let us know if you're coming along to the Malts Festival, and we look forward to seeing you there.
100%. And just going back to what my point was about the increase in production, is an absolutely brilliant thing. But that stock from 2016, the increase is only maximum about 8 years old right now. So it's going to take a while for that stock to age.
It was 2018 really, so it's...
Is it 2018? Sorry. Oh, even younger then.
Yeah.
I've been telling lies on these societies.
Well, it's sort of had, I think, about 2018 is where we effectively, I think, doubled production by having it before. People had sort of crept up before. So you're not wrong, but 2018's really when the afterburners kicked in the production front.
That's cool. And the sort of filling recipe from there is, the guys in the tour office sort of calculate is about 60 casks that we fill every single week. We're in operation at the Springbank Distillery for 34 weeks of the year. That's from January up until the middle of September. And then Glengale it's only 12 weeks. And that's from about October time all the way through until December 20th-ish. So not an awful lot of production going on, quite frankly, but the filling recipes from there. So 50% of all casks filled are first fill Oloroso Sherry, 30% are first fill bourbon, and then the final 20% are refills and basically everything and anything that Finlay can source from year to year, which includes your ports, your rums from Cairn Heads, we get Madeira, Marsala, red wines, sweet dessert wines as well, and I've even seen things like there's like 40 casks of Springbank maturing in Carcavelos somewhere in our warehouses, and that is like a Portuguese dessert fortified wine that is only made in Lisbon. I didn't, when I saw Carcavelos written on the side of a cask, I was like, what even is that?
What's going on there?
Yeah, so interesting to see how that develops. But yeah, is it probably good to move on to the next whiskey?
I think we're doing well for time. That seems like a good idea. I saw a question from Bram. Can you reveal some of the Malts Festival bottles? I don't know. Should we? Are we going to cause chaos?
Go for it. The worst that could happen.
The last thing I can see from me in Sunderland is nope. So I don't. Oh no, he's maybe replying to Christopher Malloy. Chestnut, is that permitted by the SWA? No, it's not. So we obviously wouldn't be able to call that whiskey, single malt Scotch whiskey. It'd be a spirit drink.
I've seen acacia and cherrywood
Yeah,
as well.
Same. Can't call that whiskey.
Wow.
Fortunately. Well, here's a teaser. Because this year we are focusing on Kilkerran, especially being our 20th anniversary. The Kilkerran Open Day bottle will be a 20-year-old single cask. So that's going to probably be the big bottling from us this year, and that's a very special cask. We don't have many casks of that age, so we thought the Malts Festival seemed like a good idea to use it then. And that's one of these casks that spent its first part of its life in a rum cask and then was put into a bourbon cask. So 10 years in rum, then 10 years into bourbon. I think we're all pretty agreeable in the office that it's an outstanding whiskey.
The backstory on why that rum is still there is pretty interesting. Basically, I don't know if you guys on this live stream tonight are familiar. The first ever back in 2004 when we first ever produced Kilkerran Spirit, we made you could pre-order for £1,000. You get, in 10 years time, you get a nice box, and it includes 6 10-year-old Kilkerran whiskies at 46%, and there was a bourbon one, Oloroso Sherry, Fino, Port, Madeira, and rum. So what happened was we pre-ordered and sold all these for £1,000 each, and basically they did not want to only fill one cask of each of those types: the bourbon, the Fino, the Sherry, the Oloroso, XYZ. Because what happens in 10 years' time if there's a few leaks going on? So they actually made 2 of each of those types, filled it with Kilkerran New Make, and matured those. Like the 6 of the casks got bottled, there was no leaks going on, but the other 6 remained, and they just what happened was they spent the first year in the fresh types. So like that one that David was talking about that will be for the Malts Festival, that spent 10 years in fresh rum, and it was re-racked into refill bourbon, maybe to calm it down a wee bit, just let it mature on. And I think you had plans of doing something special at an anniversary in the future, but 20 years old as Kilkerran is going to be, as Glengyle is going to be this year. I think it's March time.
Yeah, officially, and I guess, when it's a landmark birthday like that, you can spread out over the year. So the plan is to have a bit of a party here in Campbeltown later on in the year, maybe in the summer, get some entertainment and some things going on. Another thing I suppose that we're doing is we're going to introduce a Kilkerran warehouse tasting to our sort of scheduled tours. So you'll be able to come and do a Kilkerran warehouse tasting, which we're going to implement from the Malts Festival. So some of you might be coming to the Malts Festival doing that. And then the plan is to have that then going on throughout the year as well. So, and maybe even sort of steal an idea from Cadenheads and let you buy bottles from those casks. I think might be a good idea as well. And it's about shining a bit of the spotlight on Kilkerran. It's after all a pretty outstanding whisky, so 20 years is a good landmark occasion. We don't need much of an excuse to have a party in Campbeltown, so we'll have warehouse tastings, parties, full Frirday Kilkerrans. It's going to be good. It's going to be excellent.
Will that Kilkerran warehouse tasting be something that anyone can do past the Malts? Is it just going to be Malts Festival, or what's the plan?
Well, it'll be a plan to introduce it as a part of the scheduled sort of tour, so you can book a Kilkerran tour, Springbank tour, Kilkerran warehouse tasting sort of thing.
Cadenheads tour.
Yeah. No, I've still to give Mary and Julie the details of this. You'll have to find space in the calendar and the tour calendar, but I'll let them worry about the details. We come up with all the fun ideas in the sales team. I'll let somebody else work out the logistics of it all.
And if anyone asks, I don't think there's any plans for any Springbank warehouse tastings coming up anytime soon. Those casks are they're allocated for. Got plans for all those casks, and basically, as David said, wanted to shine a light on the Kilkerran brand this year. So we set aside a few more casks of Kilkerran, and we had a wee sampling session a couple of weeks ago now, I think, and that was a fun day in the office. Let's just say some very nice casks that we picked to go in for this warehouse tasting, and as David said, the first two will be in the Malts Festival on the Friday. So is that right?
Correct. Yep.
There we go.
Good stuff. Just let us know your thoughts on the Palo Cortado. I'm on the right whiskey now. Is that right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful. I think these are poured probably about 6:30 or something, and just had lots of time to air, and it's really getting those sort of Parma violet notes and the peaches. That sort of I don't know what red velvet cake is, but the strawberry laces definitely. I was stealing my daughter's sweeties the other day, and it's the strawberry laces. That sort of very sort of sweet confectionery. Yeah. Fantastic whiskey.
Something we did really interestingly enough, around about the release time of this whiskey, it was released in November, a couple of weeks before. Melanie came into the office one day with a bottle of, I think it's about 15-year-old Palo Cortado Sherry, just the sherry, and then we said, okay, let's do a side-by-side. Let's have a dram of the sherry, and then have a dram of our Springbank 10-year-old matured in Palo Cortado. And that was a very, very cool tasting, because it just exemplified how different our whiskey is to the sherry, how much more complex, robust. Doing the side-by-side, you just notice this big waft of peat smoke as well. And whenever I taste this whiskey, I just get oranges, the strawberry sort of sugary confectionery sweets that David was talking about, and Was this in your that kind of the cola bottle sort of sweet? It's very prominent for me now. But did you have this in your tasting tour this week? I haven't. No, I never picked it actually.
Good, probably not enough to go around in a tasting tour.
There's like 3 bottles.
So you had in your tasting tour a kind of mixture of different whiskies, not all that we're trying to. So this isn't a busman's holiday tonight, is it? You're revisiting some of these goods.
No, it's good. And as I said, we're doing the sort of the next half, the English tour of society tastings. I think that starts on 19 with Dumfries. Although it's not in England.
I'm just going to say it. I don't think my geography is the best, but come on now.
So that's technically part of the Scottish tour, but it was on the way that's close to Newcastle, the next venue. So I didn't want to have to go down all the way from Inverness down to Dumfries to come back to Campbeltown, quite frankly. So Dumfries is getting tacked on to the English sort of tour.
So logistically, it makes sense here.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about things down in Campbeltown, to be honest. So, or at least some of us are anyway. Mm-hmm. But so 19th is Dumfries, and then the 20th is Newcastle, 21st is, weirdly enough, Birmingham. So I go down to Birmingham, and then the following day I go back up to Manchester, just because...
this is where your geography's like, Andrew.
Should have looked at the map before I booked these tastings. No, I tried to do it all in order, but places that I really wanted to do these society tastings, bars that we work with or retailers were unfortunately booked out on that day, so I had to mess around the sort of schedule slightly. And then the final 2 days on the 23rd and the 24th are in London. So yeah, I think we're wanting to do more with the society. We're wanting to basically bring the society to people, not having to make always having to come to Campbeltown. So I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I think after the recent Stallions visit, we considered banning all society members from Campbeltown.
It's a great idea.
Just joking.
All joking.
Yeah.
All joking.
All was well.
Fantastic time. We were in the washback bar on a Saturday. Just I think it had 19 Springbank Society bottlings.
Yeah, incredible lineup. Put together by Bram and Johan and the guys, and yeah, it was good to be a part of that, really. You know, working on a Saturday doesn't sound great, but when it's doing a society tasting like that, with a free lunch thrown in as well.
I missed that part. I went home for some toasties. No one told me about that part. But yeah. Okay.
Excellent. So let's have a wee look at whiskey number 5.
We'll look at some questions or anything. I think someone talked about society, opening up the society for at least a short period of time. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we would love, we appreciate there's huge demand to get into the society, and I'm sure one day we will open up, but really we can only do that when we have the stocks to do that, because there'd be no point opening up the society to a bigger membership when we've barely got enough whiskey now to fulfill the current membership. All we'd be doing is sort of really annoying existing members and new members. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I guess the egg has to come before the chicken or whatever. We need to have the whiskey first before we can do that. So we are looking at stocks and how we can do that, but I guess it's still an ongoing sort of conversation. And yeah, we don't want to make something that's bigger or and just let people down effectively. We'd rather not do that. So we have to think about what we do quite carefully and make sure it's going to be beneficial to us and yourselves and people who join up.
Yeah, because when we shut down the society, I think it was back in 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, it was.
We're not shut it down, but paused membership.
Paused membership is what we said, and that pause is very much a delayed pregnant pause.
Yes, indeed. I think there's like around 4,000-ish members that had joined, and we were doing single casks back in the day. What were you getting from a single cask? How many bottles are you getting from a single cask? 250, 500 from a butt, maybe if you're lucky, depending on age, quite frankly. But then small batches of 4 or 5 casks, that's 1,000 bottles, 1,500 bottles, and every one of those 4,000 people wants a bottle. There's a lot of unhappy people, and also as well, you see an awful lot of bottles going on auction sites. Our brand marketing strategy is get the bottles into the people's hands at affordable prices. Hopefully they open those bottles, then they tell their pal, oh, this is better than 99% of the other whiskies on the market, and then the word spreads that way, and then their pal goes online, watches videos, goes on forums, eventually travels down to Campbeltown, is completely immersed in the experience. But if these bottles are going on auction sites for 5 times the price or more, who's actually opening those? And we don't want our distillery to become basically an afterthought. We want to keep our doors open for the next, it's survived 200 years, we want to keep it going for at least another 200 years or more. So I think we had to do something at the time. It was getting a bit out of hand.
Yeah, exactly. And it's incredible to think that we did single cask for society, and people would just email or phone in and say, can you put 2 aside for me? And we say, oh, well, there's still a few bottles left. Okay, twist my arm, we'll take a third one. And that's great. And I think now with society, the bottlings and using smaller bottles, half bottles, maybe makes them there's a good amount for somebody to open and drink, and maybe less likely to think about flipping it. Same with open day bottles. They're gone into half sizes to make sure that everybody who turns up essentially have the chance to buy bottles, rather than people worrying about queuing overnight to secure a bottle. You should be able to turn up in the afternoon and get an open day bottle, or all of them, Hazelburn, Longrose, Springbank. So that's, people still will queue because people love to queue, and it's part of the experience for some. But we want our whiskies to be drunk by people, and that's the main thing for us. And producing bottles that are people are too scared to open or see as an investment is not a sustainable business model. Really, you want people to open the whiskey, enjoy it, and come back and buy another one. So that's what we're trying to do.
But I can tell you all that David and Ranald are having many a discussion about what to do with the society. So I think the society is actually, as well as Glengyle being 20 years old this year, I think the society is actually 20 years old this year. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I ignored the one of the questions about what you're going to do for the society if society's 20th.
And I've just opened that conversation right back up. But there's nothing like concrete, but Ranald and David are like at lockerheads, quite frankly. There's a few different thoughts about what should be done with the societies, but something will happen in the future. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it's something we talk and have conversations about, and and try and work out what's going to be the best way to appease everyone. Just see Ian Sunderland's comment there, going back to the Kilkerran 20-year-old. Will there be a 35 sale with open day bottle? Yeah, it will be. That's the plan. To make it go a bit further, so people have a good chance of getting a bottle of that as well.
Yeah.
Ewan Colville agrees. Society half bottles are the way forward for sure.
Love that.
Gabriel is loving the tasting pack. He loves I'd like to be able to taste 21-year-old Longrose and Springbank.
Nice. Well, speaking about tasting the other drams, maybe we should move on at this point. So the fifth whiskey of the night is the Hazelburn, 15 years old. It's 55.8% in alcohol and 100% Oloroso sherry. I don't actually know that it won't be all first fill, but the majority of the sherry casks will be first fill. I feel it's a lot more fruitier and jammier and big Oloroso punch in the face this year, or for this release anyway. With Hazelburn, I feel it's the most underappreciated of our single malts. It's a little bit more lighter, fruity, unpeated, but it's not uncomplex. It is a very robust, heavy style of whiskey compared to all other triple distilled and unpeated whiskies on the market, quite frankly. And it can handle a big, strong sherry cask, and it's exemplified in this glass tonight, I would say. Again, all classic Oloroso sherry cask notes, your red fruits, stewed fruits, dates, raisins. There's quite a lot of cinnamon and licorice going on in here as well, I would say. But it's so dirty, so meaty. I absolutely love this style. Probably should be calling our whiskies dirty.
I saw Dirty made it onto our official tasting notes. I think for the upcoming Kilkerran 8-year-old cask strength. I thought, okay, this is a thing now. Yeah,
that's probably something I'm introducing.
I think we're quite proud of the way the whiskies are. And, as you say, the qualities of the Hazelburn sherrywood. And exactly as you say, it's quite big and robust and complex, and I think it's quite a pleasant change from the Hazelburn 10, which is our core product, our core whiskey. 10 years old, matured exclusively in ex-bourbon casks, and it's, for me, I maybe a bit biased. I love our whiskies in bourbon cask, and I think Hazelburn 10-year-old in the bourbon cask is probably one of my favourite whiskies of all time. I absolutely love it. It's a great whiskey, and then I think it's quite nice to see the polar opposite version of that in the Oloroso casks, and it's much more sort of dirtier and richer, and obviously a date syrup and things like that works really well. And I quite like seeing Hazelburn at a higher strength as well. The 10-year-old being a core product, 4 to 6%. it's always nice to try these things at a higher strength as well.
So it's almost like a Speyside style of whiskey that's just made in Campbeltown. That's heavy sherry cask, lighter style. I get an awful lot of like coffee and a slight coffee bitterness in there.
Yeah, but a pleasant, sort of coffee, sort of dark chocolate bitterness.
100% dark chocolate. It's almost like if you covered raspberries in dark chocolate. That's what I get from this whiskey. I absolutely love that.
I don't want to know what was going on in your society tasting tour last week.
Yeah, less said about that the better, quite frankly. Good times were had, let's just say. But yeah, I mean, speaking about sherry casks as well, this is probably quite a good time to speak about it. We buy all of our sherry casks from one producer in Jerez in Spain. They're called Miguel Martin, and Finlay Ross went across to meet with Miguel a few years ago now, probably. But at that time, basically the way that we buy our sherry casks, they're seasoned sherry casks. And when you say the word seasoning in your sherry cask or seasoned sherry casks, people automatically think, oh, it's like you get fresh wood, chuck in sherry for a couple of weeks, let it bake in the Spanish sun, and then ship those casks broken down over to Scotland. It's not like that at all. Basically what happens, they cut fresh European oak or wherever they get their oak from, and they actually cut the staves and let the staves bake outside in the sun. And what happens is basically European oak is filled to the gunnels with black tar sappiness, and you have to, with baking it in the sun, it extracts a lot of those sappy notes, or a lot of the black tar essentially flows out into the ground. And then what they do, because if you didn't do that, your sherries and eventually your whiskies would be really impacted by sort of off notes, the tanniny off notes. So they get rid of a lot of that initially before they actually cooper the cask. And once they do that, they throw in Oloroso, PX, Palo Cortado, Manzanilla, Amontillado, whatever, and they let it mature inside that cask for 22 months on average. Nearly 2 years it's sitting inside that cask. Unfortunately, like 99.9% of the sherry casks you now see in the whiskey industry are seasoned sherry casks, like Bodega casks aren't going around, and if they are, it's getting very, very expensive.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the Bodega cask things that have romantically, set in these Solera systems, from speaking to previous production managers, those casks, the quality of the wood isn't great. They are really old, tired casks, and Miguel Martin spent a lot of time sort of research and development to work out what's going to be best for the wood and then into the whiskey, and they will pick this sort of 22 months as the perfect point. They're not doing that to for efficiency or anything like that. They've worked that out as the best sort of time to have the sherry influence the wood, and then therefore extract itself back out for the wood then to go and influence the whiskey later on. And these notions of casks coming out of a Bodega that are 50 years old or whatever, I don't think it's been like that for years. So a lot
of sulphur candles getting used in the past
exactly.
as well. You don't get too many sulphury modern Springbanks, so I think it's a fantastic thing as well. And what happens with the sherry casks is once they've spent that 22 months maturing, or that even more of the black tar sappiness has been extracted and the sherries have been imparted onto the staves, kind of what David was alluding to. After that point, after the 22 months, we get the casks shipped whole to Campbeltown with sherry residues still inside there to keep them nice and wet. And Miguel Martin supplies, I can't even list all of the single malt distilleries that they produce, or like they produce supply for. But let's just say there's some, if you look it up online, there's quite a few big names that they also supply sherry casks to. So we feel that we get very, very high quality sherry casks, and it's exemplified right here in the Hazelburn. So cool.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
How much of the sherry casks are made from European oak and American oak respectively? I think actually a lot of American oak's used in these casks. But I don't know what the exact breakdown, but you'd almost assume that if it's a sherry producer, they'd be using exclusively European oak, but that's not the case at all. They use a lot of American oak.
I didn't realise that. Oh.
Our ex-beer cask's an option. I don't know, are you making us an offer there, Christopher Malloy?
I've not seen any tequila or mezcal casks in the warehouses yet. I don't know.
No, although I
if we
think,
have any plans for that either.
I think it was Coleman had a nice sort of mezcal cask finish, and I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm maybe a bit biased. I do like mezcal. So the Hazelburn is getting a lot of positivity here. Excellent. Yeah, good. I think all the whiskies are individually great in their own way. Right from the Campbeltown Loch and then going through to the older Springbanks and then to the sort of sherry influenced Springbank, now the Hazelburn. So I think now we said we'd try and be about an hour in this, and we're coming up to 8 o'clock, just going on to our last dram. So we're doing well, Andrew.
Not bad at all.
Maybe just before we go into our last dram, it might be worth highlighting that we are, you might have seen on social media, we're about to do the next release of our countdown collection. So please keep an eye on our socials for that. We appreciate it's a whisky that is unobtainable for a lot of people due to the high value of it. There's only 500 bottles in each release. But, it's not very often that you have a 200-year anniversary to work towards, so I think putting this collection together is a pretty fitting testament to the occasion, and I think it's only right and fair and proper that we charge an appropriate price. That means that we have some money to then build a distillery to mark our 200-year anniversary, along with ongoing projects such as new bottling hall dispatch facilities as well. So yeah, keep an eye on our socials for that.
What is the bottle in this year?
26-year-old, 500 bottles of it again. Every release will be 500 bottles, and the guys from Barrel to Bottle have done a fantastic job making some videos for us. Very, very, I've never used this word in a tasting before, very, very sexy videos. I don't think anybody can deny it. I think that's this was a Facebook post, would be hashtag whiskey porn.
I didn't think the tasting was going that far tonight.
This is why I said it had to be 1 hour, Andrew, because now I'm going off piste here.
Going back to the bottle, and obviously a 26-year-old Springbank, but do we know what the vatting is? Have you got that information yet?
I do. I helped put it together. But
you should know.
Yeah, I should know. But I'm not going to say it out loud because I can't quite remember. So I hate saying things I'm not so sure about on live Facebook posts or feeds.
With Springbank at that age, you got a massive chance of it being a refill cask anyway, because the fresh cask would have been bottled a lot younger, quite frankly. So yeah,
I mean, I could look it up in my notes on the phone, but I'm not going to bother. All will be revealed shortly on social media. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye out there. Awesome. Ryan Flanagan said, did he say build a new distillery? Yep, that is in the pipeline to add a third distillery to the J&A Mitchell portfolio, and we think that's a pretty fitting tribute in one way or another to mark our 200-year anniversary, is to put something back into the community which will again sort of enhance the benefits of what we do. There's going to be more employment, and the community is going to benefit from that, and it'll give people another reason to come and visit us in Campbeltown. You can't just come down to Campbeltown for one day now, really. You've got to stretch out over a few days if you want to see the existing distilleries in Cadenheads, and with all these new distilleries cropping up, we hope people will be coming down and spend at least a week here.
Yeah.
It's going to make a future malts festival maybe challenge, and we'll be sort of fighting for days of the week to have our open days.
The 2-week malts festival in the future, potentially, with all these new distilleries coming in.
Nathan is shaking his head vigorously over there.
Yeah, going off David's point there, we view the new distilleries coming to Campbeltown as an incredible thing. It's Mr. Wright built Glengyle in 1999, well, from 2000 to 2004, because we were about to lose our regional status. Campbeltown has always been a whiskey region. It used to be called the whiskey capital of the world. In a town of 2,000 people in the 1800s, there was 34 legal licensed distilleries. If you actually think about that, that is nuts. It was mental. There's supposedly about 100 other little copper kettle stills in people's kitchens or underneath floorboards, XYZ. But we think the new distilleries coming to Campbeltown is absolutely fantastic. As David said, it's going to bring more employment, bring more people to Campbeltown, solidify Campbeltown as a whiskey region. But the thing is, Campbeltown had 34 distilleries, or legal ones anyway, and then eventually, well, the 1800s was the boom time, the 1900s was the death century, essentially. So many of them shut down, and once the dust settled, I think it was 1925, don't quote me on that, once the dust settled in 1925, there was 2 distilleries left, Springbank and Glen Scotia on the other side of the town. And the reason for that was, you can blame Prohibition, the First World War, Great Depression, all these different factors, Speyside becoming more popular, people wanted a more light and fruity style of whiskey. But essentially, Campbeltown distillery owners became far too greedy. They started pumping out millions of litres of not very nice tasting alcohol, and eventually they relied too heavily on the blenders. Single malts weren't a massive thing, and if the blenders aren't buying your casks, you eventually go out of business pretty soon after. So that's what happened. And we feel that the news of the new distilleries coming to Campbeltown is absolutely brilliant. But we have to think about how Glen Scotia, Glengyle and Springbank have built Campbeltown back up to... You mentioned the word Campbeltown in the whiskey industry nowadays. What do people think of? Just great tasting whiskey. So we need to maintain that standard and build Campbeltown up the right way, I feel. And yeah, that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah, I think there was a comment there about what do we think of the new distilleries. What do you think about other new non-J&A Mitchell distilleries opening up? Any of them looking particularly exciting to you guys? And again, anything that brings people to Campbeltown, employment to Campbeltown is great. Yeah, so all for that. And there's a few comments saying, yeah, we need to build a few more hotels, which I think is a fair point as well.
And houses.
And housing, yeah, housing is becoming an issue, possibly schools and all the rest of it as well. So, but you never know. We'll get there one day.
Aye. Oh, someone said that, I think it was Ranald or yourself might have said that Islay has 110% employment, which means that people come over in a boat or fly in most weeks just to work. That's not a very good situation to have. And yeah.
Yeah,
to go from that.
Yeah, and there's, I think, still more distilleries planned. So it's good that we're in the same sort of council area as Islay. So if some of these guys want to turn their attention to Campbeltown in the mainland, where they don't have to rely on ferries, etc., and we've probably got a bit more space possibly to build new housing down here. So yeah, I think now's a good time for Campbeltown. So what do we think of the Long Nov 21 here, Andrew?
Long Nov 21, yeah, balled at 46%. This year's Long Nov 21 came out in November, and the cask makeup 65% sherry, 35% bourbon. I think retail on this one was £260 from memory. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I always find with Long Row, you've got like a 50-50 chance of what style of peat smoke's actually going to appear in the glass. So from Long Rows I've had in the past, you get the sea saltiness, the Islay sort of style of being that sort of like old fisherman's Creole and medicinal TCP.
Sitting docksides in the harbour.
All that style. Or on the flip side, you've got Long Row that's going to be bonfire smoke, campfires, vegetation, heathered style of peat smoke. I never know which style it's going to appear for Long Row. I'd say this one falls into the sea salty Islay style category. It's heavy on the sea saltiness and the brininess. and 65% sherry cask. It's standing up really, really well. The long row peatiness is standing up really well to the sherry cask in here, and it's just integrated very, very nicely. A lot of salted caramel, a lot of.
I see the fizzy sort of cola bottle notes in here again as well. I think Ruth Ashton Ward might have pointed out earlier on that we must drink a lot of cola in Campbeltown. That taste note's appeared a few times. I think since you've joined the tasting team, Andrew, there must be, maybe it's your note.
Right. I only got allowed to write the tasting notes on this most recent release that's about to be released in February, so maybe you'll see a few more changes in tasting notes coming up in the future. And dirty is one of them.
Yeah, quite right. But I think I agree that Longwood 21 is fantastic. It has the sort of maritime influence, and kind of surprisingly for me, the smoke influence, peat influence is quite actually big in this. Sometimes the older Longlows, I find that the sort of peaty influence really sort of trails off, but I find it quite big in the 21-year-old here. It kind of leaves a kind of amber and ashy type note, which I find really, really good.
Absolutely excellent. Yeah. So, actually speaking about retail prices of the other bottles as well. So, what do I have? Campbeltown Loch, £40. Excellent value for money. What was the next whiskey? The Springbank 18, that's 110. Springbank 21, £260. I mean, these are all UK retail prices. It changes depending on where you buy them from, which retailers and which country. The Palo Cortado, £90. Hazelburn, £15, £70. And Long Row 21, £260. So that, as I said before at the start of the tasting, that is our strategy. A lot of people we speak to say, why don't we just charge, instead of £52 for a Springbank 10-year-old, why don't we charge £150, and we'd probably still sell it. But the thing is, like, who's actually opening that bottle? Who's actually drinking that bottle? How is our brand going to survive in the next 50 years or whatever? So, good value for money whiskies, excellent tasting, and hopefully you've enjoyed the tasting tonight, I would say.
Yeah, I see some people are putting their preferred order up. So Gabrielle Radstrom, sorry I've butchered your name there. Longwood 21, Hazelburn 15, Springbank 21. Let us know your favourite dram. Jordan Komorowski, can we expect Longwood 18 release in 2024? There are rumours there's not enough older stock. Yeah, for Longrow, the older age statements of Longrow, it's a Longwood 21 you won't see next year, or this year now, sorry. But there will be a release of 18-year-old for the time being, but perhaps in borrowed time without going into too much detail on that now. But we aim to put together a very good sort of younger sort of core range anyway.
What would you say is your favourite tonight?
It's like...
Favourite child?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a favourite child, but I'm not allowed to say it on Facebook Live.
Oh, come on. Have fun here.
Oh, they're all very good and unique in their own way. You know, Campbeltown Loch is excellent. I always forget how good it is every time I go back to it. The 18-year-old is excellent, 21-year-old is fantastic, those fruits. The Palo Cortado wouldn't normally be my cask of choice, that anything really sort of heavy sherry influence, but I really, really like that. Same with the Hazelburn, and then the Longwood 21. I can't put them in any sort of order. What about yourself?
I love the Hazelburn 15 Oloroso Sherry. It would be my favourite of this tasting. And then the Springbank 21, I love the tropical fruity Springbank. Those are my two favourite. I would say. But as David alluded to as well, we love them all. So that's it.
We love them all equally.
Spoken like a true salesperson, that is. Yeah. Excellent.
Good stuff.
Hopefully everyone enjoyed tonight. And with these tasting packs as well, sorry, I'm coughing here. This is something we're going to be doing more regularly.
So twice a year, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're doing so the next one with
Every
next
two
one,
releases.
Yeah, so July, I think the next one, June, July, or between May and June, July.
Summertime.
Yeah, and maybe we should try and expand it, get more packs out so more people can join in. And I'm sure a lot of you will see Andrew on the road. For those of you watching from Japan, I think it's 4 a.m. I saw somebody say, watching from Japan, good on you. Hopefully you'll catch up with Fiona and Jenna next week. They're in Japan, then heading over to South Korea before they're coming back home. So make sure you say hi to them. If you're going to see Andrew on the road, wind him up. That's what we love to do in the office. So let that continue on the road.
We'll get singing Campbeltown Loch at every single venue as well. Goodness sake. Yeah, it's been really looking forward to the rest of the Society tastings and then the European tour, and then once I can wrangle an American tour and then New Zealand, Australia, all around the world. We'll see. While stocks last, basically, but I'm trying hard, guys. I'm trying really hard. But
excellent. Good man. All right, thanks for watching, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.